biggest intervention now that we can make as a government is to relieve the needs of our government from the public power supply, and that is why we are quickly ramping up on our efforts to take the state government secretariat, which is a huge complex of several thousands of workers, off the national power grid by building an IPP to support it. We're also taking that, and that is on the mainland in Lagos, and we're also taking a few public institutions owned by the state government off the public power supply. By March of next year, we should have on a 15 megawatt power supply to supply some of the state-owned institutions, the High Court, the Magistrates Courts, the General Hospital, the Island Maternity, and even the State House off the power grid. Those are our short-term solutions. The medium-term solutions, of course, are to continue to engage with the federal government to fast-track the completion of power sector reform. We have very, very excited and interested investors who want to partner to provide support, expertise to manage the distribution companies and also to generate power.
We've seen a vast improvement in the city's transport system with the introduction of BRT buses and lanes and LASMA, but congestion is still a major issue. What else have you got planned to deal with and ease the traffic in the city?
First, congestion is a sign of economic prosperity, and you won't find congestion in a desert. And so it constantly has to be managed, and we are implementing solutions in stages. The BRT was the first stage. The second stage is the rail transport system, and as I speak, the construction of the Lagos Light Rail project has started. We are also now engaging with the preferred bidders for the concession and management of the rolling stock. We are very close to concluding the terms of concession that will be the prelude to the signing of a concession agreement to supply the rolling stock and manage it. Also, a lot of work has gone on with regards to water transportation. We are concluding now 3 major jetties that we built in strategic axes of the state to help us improve on the interconnectivity and the intermodality of the transport service in the state. So a lot of work is going on.
Obviously, Lagos is growing rapidly. It's even been said to overtake Cairo and become Africa's biggest city in the next few years. But with that will come an influx of people. What is the state planning to do in order to provide housing and employment for all these new people into the state?
I believe that as long as people who make a living here are able to contribute back to the sustenance of the Commonwealth, it is possible to sustain this state, and we are moving on to ensuring that we get people to come into the formal economy, register their businesses, identify themselves, get an identification so that we know where they are and we can plan for them, and we can prepare to deal with them. Once we know the numbers, it is easier to address the problems that we expect them to face: housing, electricity, water supply, and all of that. There is a plan that we are working on. We are very, very close to closure to bridge the financing gap that has been the challenge in provision of houses. It is not the lack of knowledge to build houses that has been the issue. Lagosians can't build houses. It is access to the houses by those for whom it is built, the financing that enables them to pay for their houses over a long term. And I believe that we are very close to finding that solution that will deliver a sustainable housing plan and policy for the state over a long period.
What does it cost to develop a city like Lagos in terms of its infrastructure, and how do you plan to finance that?
Well, the financing measures are a combination of the traditional methods: taxation of income, and whether it is personal income or real estate income. That's the time-tested traditional method. Of course, borrowing is another strategy, but as we borrow, we also have to keep a very safe and reasonable balance between our debt obligations and our resources, and also manage the deficit which has been kept under control year on year in our budgets. Of course, the last method is the evolving method of creating a more formal structure. It has been there in some sense, but it's increasingly gaining global formalization under the guise of PPPs. Is to create a formal structure really for private sector to invest and intervene in more sectors than were thought to be possible for private capital intervention.